Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL. Slightly abbreviated version today because only the two games are coming up in round 4, the WAFL Derby, if you will, and a Western Suburbs Showdown. We've got Taj Wyburd on the phone to talk to us about the WAFL Derby a little later on, and a very special surprise guest that we'll have coming up later on in the show. Paul Persick with you in the studio on your go-to WAFL podcast for 2024. Alongside me, getting himself ready to rock, is Ethan Roth. Ethan, what a week of football it's going to be. Only 2 games, but still riding plenty of importance.
Only the 2 games, but just as much as stake, especially for Claremont, as we'll get into later.
Absolutely. This is Around the WAFL, your go-to WAFL podcast. You can check us out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, as well as on our socials as well. But here is how you can win big at the WAFL.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
All right, the WAFL Derby coming up this week. That is certainly going to be a big win-win. Hopefully a big crowd at Optus Stadium on Saturday afternoon. The big curtain raiser before the Eagles Fremantle AFL Derby. But there is a lot at stake for both Peel Thunder and the West Coast Eagles. Joining us to talk about the game is the one and only Taj Wyburd, who played a great game for the Thunder against East Perth last weekend, and he's looking to do so again in front of the big stage at Optus Stadium. Taj, how are you, mate?
Hey, Paul, how you going?
Going very well. Great to have you on the show. Let's go back, first of all, to last Saturday against East Perth. What was the message from Adam Reid at three-quarter time? Because that comeback was massive against East Perth on the way to a 16-point win.
Reedy likes to keep it quite simple, and we just went back to our basics and how we want to play, and we just talk about our willpower and the win the hunt. And with that, we'll be able to access our shape, which led to some good forward entries to kick some good goals up front. So it was good.
Nathan Wilson was clutch up forward in the last quarter. How has his confidence been on the field since the start of the season?
Well, I feel like he's at home in Mandurah, as he's born and bred, so nothing but pure confidence from him up front. So it's good to see that he's kicking goals. That's probably got the best left foot in the comp.
Certainly does. Nathan Wilson, he was clutch with those 3 goals. The Peel Thunder spine has worked pretty well in the first 3 weeks of the season, especially with Jacob Blight, his roll down back 10 marks in shutting down the Royals forward line. How important is he to your side?
Yeah, he plays a pretty pivotal role as he's a big boy and helps us out down back. And it's more his leadership and his mentoring the other defenders, which helps us work as a big back six to get the ball rolling for the team.
And your 17 possessions had a big impact in the game. Adam Reid, the coach, he's given you a nice role to play, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's given me a couple of chances, which is good by him. It's just good that he backs me in and gives me the confidence to do what I do best, and hopefully keep striving for the year and have a good season. So, yeah, it's good.
The morale on the team is pretty good after that win over East Perth. Being the runners-up last year gives the team that extra fire in the belly to go one better and win back the premiership?
Yeah, falling short isn't really the best feeling. And a couple of the boys, we just talk about it. And we do want to go that one extra like everyone else in the comp. So we're just working our hard and doing our basics well to try to get that end goal.
And got the WAFL Derby at Optus Stadium on Saturday. Big opportunity at Optus. What's going to be like for you and the boys playing on the biggest stadium in the state?
Yeah, being at Optus will be pretty cool. So hopefully, fingers crossed to get picked first, and then it should be a great experience. And just to have the crowd there, it should be good rolling in for the Derby and do something that not many others can do. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. You'll be going up against the Eagles. They're up and about following their shock win over East Fremantle. How will you approach this game, considering the Eagles are now back on the winners list?
The WAFL is a pretty strong comp, so anyone can win on any given day. So we don't treat anyone lightly at all. And Ree likes to say, the enemy thanks you for not giving 100%. So we just keep at it and give us it all. We could give us the best chance to win.
Should be a sensational game over there at Optus Stadium, the big WAFL Derby. Taj, we really appreciate your time. Great game against East Perth this past weekend, and we wish you all the best on Saturday.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you for having me.
That was Taj Wyburd, Peel Thunder star, joining us here on Around the Waffle. And I tell you what, that WAFL Derby is going to be fire at Optus Stadium.
It will be. There's a little bit of spark that's been added to it off the back of that result. So, bring it on.
Let's go to the Round 4 reviews. This is Around the Waffle, your go-to WAFL podcast for 2024. But first, here's how you can check out WAFL Wonderland.
Get to WAFL Wonderland to watch the Tigers take on the Lions at Revo Stadium in Claremont from 1:30 this Saturday. It's WAFL Footy with a wonderland of food trucks, giveaways, DJ and kids activities. Tickets at waffle.com.au.
All right, WAFL Wonderland going to be at the Western Suburb Showdown, Claremont and Subiaco. And, of course, we'll get to that game in a moment. But first, the WAFL Derby. The Eagles are up and about. Peel Thunder high on confidence. This one should be an absolute beauty.
It should be, and a little bit of a different spectacle playing on the bigger ground. So interesting to see how both teams adapt to that. Obviously, both teams with AFL experienced players, but the ones who aren't on lists, it'll be a big day for them.
It's a great opportunity, isn't it? But, of course, on a very usually wild day on football, RAC Derby, over there at Optus Stadium with the AFL sides. A lot of hype surrounding it, but I think there's got to be some hype around this one, of course, the WAFL Derby, because both sides are coming off good wins. The Eagles have got some, obviously, AFL veterans that are getting towards the end, but also a lot of the young guys that are pushing for AFL selection as well. So too are the Dockers through the Peel Thunder alignment. So there's still going to be a lot riding on this game.
And Taj, you can hear there, obviously, if he does play, just hear the excitement in his voice playing on Optus Stadium. It's a brilliant chance to showcase yourself. And, Taj has probably been someone who's flown under the radar a little bit. I know he's good mates with Clay Hall, so that'll be interesting to see if those two go head-to-head on the field. I'd
love to see them match up against each other. That should certainly be a big match-up in the Derby. Clay Hall had the 15 disposals last week in their win over East Fremantle. And I think it's going to also be a battle of the backlines as well. If Liam Ryan plays again in that WAFL side and start him on half-back, that could be a good counter to what Peel Thunder got down back on their spine.
Blistering speed as well, so They'll take a little bit of a leap out of East Fremantle's book about what to do, what not to do with Liam Ryan if he does go to halfback again.
Absolutely. Of course, you also have Dom Sheed and Andrew Gaff, that experience in midfield. There's going to be a lot of questions surrounding them. Should they play on Saturday night? Will they remain in the WAFL? Who's going to be there? But then again, they're getting to the tail end of their careers. There isn't a lot to offer, but they continue to deliver in such spades.
They do deliver to get the ball, and their experience is invaluable. I don't think we can underestimate that. And another question, will Erasmus play for Peel? I know he was obviously the sub for Freo. Will he play in the Derby? He's going to be there one way or the other, but he'll be a relegation for Peel if he's there in the midfield.
That's a 50-50, I'd have to say. Erasmus started on the bench against Port Adelaide, but I reckon if he plays in that Thunder side, that will give Peel Thunder's midfield a massive, massive boost. They didn't get that four-quarter game that they wanted against East Perth. They were missing Erasmus, but they do have great depth. So I think it won't make a difference whether they play him or not, but if they do, it'll be a big boost.
A big-bodied midfielder who can just do it at ground level, do the dirty work and feed it out to the other players. You don't take that for granted. So.
What about Nathan Wilson up forward? How good is that going to be if Nathan Wilson is selected for the Thunder and he plays up forward after his last quarter performance against East Perth?
He'll be looking to kick another couple goals and contribute to a win. So, Nathan Wilson's still one to watch out for.
It will be a great game in front of what could be a big crowd over there at Optus Stadium before the bigger AFL Derby on Saturday night. Who wins this one?
Unfortunately for Eagles fans, look, I could be proven wrong, as we were both proven wrong last week, but I think Peel Thunder do the job quite convincingly.
I'll say Peel Thunder as well, but I don't think it's going to be a blow. I just have this feeling that the Eagles are going to come out all guns blazing in that game, but for me, Peel Thunder will be too strong at the end of the day. I'd say about 5 goals.
Okay.
It'll be a good game over there. Catch it at Optus Stadium, or if you can't make it there, you can catch it on the AFL app. It's going to be an absolute beauty over there on Saturday afternoon, but that's not the only game for round 4. This one has plenty of stakes. The Western Suburbs Showdown, Revo Fitness Stadium. WAFL Wonderland's going to be there. Claremont and Subiaco, over at Revo Fitness Stadium. It's going to be a ripper.
Really looking forward to this matchup. It's do or die for Claremont. Let's be real. If they lose this, I don't think there's any way they can come back from it 0-4. So, expect them to be fired up, and their members and fans will be fired up because last time they played there, we know what happened against the Sharks.
Absolutely, and also last time they met in the first semi-final over at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, Subiaco ended the Tiger season by just under 40 points. it's going to be a battle again in the ruck as well. I think Claremont are going into this with an undersized midfield. Subiaco have got a little bit more tall timber down the middle, and that's what could be the big difference in the end.
Yeah, and there's been a little bit of an over-reliance on, your Rogers, your Boltons, your Mountfords, the captain as well. So a bit more of an even spread for Claremont. I know a couple of the young debutants have stepped up where they can, but they'll be looking for a bit more of an even spread.
Yeah, it's going to be certainly interesting, no doubt about that, especially when you're looking at the sides that are drawn together in these games. Claremont and Subiaco, they've both been, quite evenly matched.
They have been a brilliant history, as you said. They have a little bit of a rivalry, both getting the better of each other at times. So this one, I expect it to go down to the wire. I don't see there's any reason why it wouldn't. There
is going to be one problem, however, for Claremont. They're likely to miss Declan Mountford, of course. He suffered an injury in their 1-point loss to South Fremantle over the weekend. If they have him out of that game, who do they turn to? Their back line, with the exception of Martinez, hasn't got a lot of other options. That's the problem for Claremont at the moment.
They're a bit undersized as well, and I wonder how much emphasis has been put on the start at training this week. They can't afford a start like they had against South Fremantle. No matter how much you want to catch up on it, it's going to come back to bite you. So they need to, from the first ball up, they need to come out with fire in their belly.
Kitchen versus Rogers. What a matchup that's going to be, I reckon. If they get matched up on each other, what a battle it's going to be.
Yeah, Lee Kitchen, despite his age, he hasn't lost a thing, and he's not captain now, and he just. Yeah, I know there's been a lot of talk about, probably his last year or two in the WAFL, but he hasn't lost it, and he looks as good as ever, if I'm being honest.
Because both sides have got plenty of experience in midfield and also up forward. When you look at Sokol and Mayo, and you've got, of course, Alexander Manuel, who obviously has had an inconsistent start to the season as Alexander Manuel. Usually a lot of fire up forward, had the 2 goals straight from only the 6 touches, but you also have the big ruckman in West Love. I reckon he could play a supporting role for Ollie Eastland in the ruck, and also Alec Waterman, who kicked 2 goals in that 1-point loss. So depth is on both sides as far as the forward lines are concerned.
Yeah, Manuel, obviously that mid-sized forward, and Waterman starting to get a little bit back to his best. I think he's not fully right. I still think he might be having a bit of injury niggles. But you said West Love there. He needs to be able to give a chop out for Ollie Easton at some point and provide some depth.
No doubt about it. Who wins? Should be a great game.
I think Subiaco. I don't think I saw Claremont being 0-3, let alone 0-4, but I think I'm back in the lines after their recent form.
I'm going to say Subiaco as well, only by about 2 goals. I reckon it'll be a very absorbing contest. Of course, all round 4 games are live, free and in full on the AFL app, and also it's on Channel 7. The Claremont-Subiaco game should be an absolute ripper.
What a win. It's games like that make me come down to the WAFL, hey?
Oh, yeah, that's a win. But the real win is just how close you get.
Little
like you can hear the coach.
I mean, yeah, that's obviously a win, but how good was that comeback?
True, that's definitely a win, but you can't beat kick to kick at half-time.
Yeah, I guess we can both have a win.
Yeah.
Whatever your win is, it's win-win at the WAFL. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
Close to the players!
Well, we're in the early stages of the season, but I tell you what, there's been plenty of exciting footy, and let's just say around the WAFL has gotten a little bit electrified, because joining us here to look at the early highlights of the season, the great Mark Redding. Skeet, welcome.
Hello, Paul. Good to be with you, Ethan. And there's a bit of excitement after last weekend. 28 points cumulative, the margin between the 5 results. So a 1-pointer, we've had a couple of games decided by less than a kick. So, yeah, that's exactly what the WAFL wants. And the West Coast Eagles breaking their drought, which has been great for the competition as well.
Over 600 days since the Eagles last won. That's pretty good for the competition to see those teams that have been below the ladder for quite a long time getting the points.
No question about that. And look, and then you see Claremont at the bottom of the table with 3 losses to start the season. So that's unusual, foreign territory for them. I think it's 2015 since they've been since they've been in that type of predicament. And you look ahead to the West Coast Eagles, they're searching for back-to-back wins for the first time since 2021, round 16-17. So, yeah, there's some nice surprises coming our way, and hopefully an even comp for the rest of the year.
And stars are plenty as well. Plenty of players coming back from the AFL. Some young players stepping up to the plate as well, who have been some guys that have really impressed you so far.
Well, I guess Nathan Wilson, from what I've seen, we did his game against East Fremantle in round 1, kicked 5 goals, kicked 3 on the weekend. So he's gone from being a defender to a forward in part. So I've really liked seeing him. Last weekend we saw South Fremantle and Claremont, and not so much his AFL career, but Hayden Sloyth back in the mix. And that was a strange game of footy where you're seeing South Fremantle kick the first 6 goals of the game and then only 4 more for the rest of the match to win by a point, where Claremont kicked one goal, 8 in the last quarter, and it was one behind to the Bulldogs. So there's a sprinkling of AFL listed players. I mean, I think it might have been Winder coming back. Isaiah Winder coming back for South as well. So, I've only seen a couple of games given the broadcasting opportunities. But, it is wonderful to see some of those AFL listed players who've maybe lost their opportunity at that top level coming back and giving something back to the WAFL.
What about interstate recruiters as well? There's been a few that have come over from the VFL, case in point Charlie Constable from Perth and Nick Rokar from the Sandful. That interstate sprinkling really increases the depth of the competition.
Absolutely. We've seen that in more recent times where players come over unheralded in many ways and really give the WAFL clubs a lift. So you mentioned Perth, they've sort of gone to Geelong to try and get players who've been at that level, and Peter German's been very proactive on that front. But there's many players that have been able to come across here almost unheralded and have found that they slot in really well at their clubs. Swan Districts had that a couple of years ago. I think it was Fisher was one of the players, and he was joined by a couple of others in the mix at the black and white. So it's great for the comp to attract these players to WA and boost the level here in the West.
And I was saying to Paul in our previous episode that there seems like there's a real brigade of youngsters right around the competition, particularly from a key position standpoint. You look at Jasper Skay from West Perth, you've got Luke Paulson, South Fremantle, Jacob Blight got our player of the votes on the weekend. So it's not just the experience, but the youngsters are really making a name for themselves.
Yeah, saw Paulson. He kicked the first goal of the game for South Fremantle. Big lump of a lad. Yeah, he's originally from Peel.
Yeah, spent last year at Kalgoorlie.
Yeah, so they've got some height there at South Fremantle with the Strong boys, etc. But you're right, some of those players, Blight, I was really impressed with in round one against East Fremantle. So, it's some of those local products, those guys that have been in the system for a bit now get their opportunity, which is terrific.
What about a couple of the teams that, are expected to be right up there for the five? We talk about the likes of East Perth, after their big burst into the finals. West Perth, of course, they had a loss against Subiaco, a close game, but they've got some good depth at both ends of the ground. And what about, of course, Perth, Swan Districts, and even Peel Thunder, the runners-up, who are looking to go one better?
Yeah, well, the good thing is, at this point, there's no unbeaten sides, which is what you want. And the tightness of the competition, that's what I've said at the top of the chat, is that if we can keep a bit of guesswork as to who's going to play finals, who's going to finish on top, that's terrific. And I think it's important that Perth and Swan Districts and East Perth continue their resurgence from last year. But, given what's happened with East Fremantle, having dropped one to West Coast, having been penalised 4 premiership points, they're on zero. They're effectively a team that's won a game but hasn't won a game. So that now puts a lot of onus on them, not just to finish high on the ladder, but to make the five, because in tight competition, they can't have too many more slip-ups.
Yeah, they can't. And Perth, can they break the hoodoo? Haven't won a flag since 77, I believe it is. So obviously that's been well documented. But they've started well, 2-1 as it stands. They seem to be playing really well at Lathlane. It seems like they're building into a nice fortress. But obviously, they need to be able to win some games on the road as well.
Absolutely. And look, I haven't seen them yet, and I've got a soft spot for Perth. I think the competition needs the Demons to do well. At least play finals would be nice. Bit early. Subiaco's a really good win first up. They hadn't had much success against them, and likewise with Swan Districts, they'd struggled against them, particularly at Mineral Resources Park. So that's the challenge comes in their next match against East Perth, I think, on Anzac Day, and they're the real deal. So I wouldn't get too carried away with what Perth has done. Mind you, it just gives a bit of enthusiasm to their supporters. They've won 2 of 3. Playing finals would be a great step, and we saw them when they played in that COVID-shortened year, where they were up at Joondalup and they had really good support and they pushed West Perth right to the brink. So, Perth is a team on the move. As I mentioned, West Coast, Swan Districts, we'd like to see them, again, take some steps in 2024.
Some of your early picks, if you've got some, for the Sandover medal, who do you think's in that Sandover form at the moment?
Yeah, well, I stand, hand in the air saying, look, I've only done a couple of games, so not having seen a heap of the footy. But, I mean, just looking back at the game we covered on the weekend, and in round one, look, Neil Erasmus was best on ground. That was, whether he gets the opportunity to play enough footy at that level remains to be seen, but he was clearly best on ground in the match we called in round one. Last weekend, Claremont and South Fremantle in that contest. I mean, what have you got? Zach Strom kicked 5 goals, and it wasn't funny, him and Noah with 9 between them the previous week. That was something to behold. The usual suspects got the footy in the game we call with Matty Parker, 27-1. He was outstanding. A little premature for me to be saying a Sandover medal hope, unless you've found someone who's probably got 3 best ons, which you might have seen.
I don't know about 3 best ons, but I did predict Greg Clark. It's probably an obvious choice at the start of the season. He just racks up the footy. He just accumulates the possessions. So
And he follows up on it as well. He gets some good boost in the midfield.
Yeah, no, correct. Look, he's going to be a really good decision to have him as captain. Lee Kitchen's been outstanding for a long time. But, yeah, look, I think it's still early days on that front. But you're right. East Perth, to me, now we know Hamish Brayshaw missed the first match because of concussion, and we know Angus Shoemaker is missing some footy because of a similar ailment. So they're the type of players that will vote quite heavily, and if your team is winning and the umpire sees a lot of you, I think you're always a chance. So I think guys like that are going to be prominent again, whether there's a mid, whether it's a Charlie Constable who steps up, where there's a player that we haven't seen a lot of who can find some votes. That would be interesting to see, but still early days.
Just before we let you go, Skeet, of course, round 4, 2 games coming up. We got the WAFL Derby, if you will, the curtain raiser to the main event, but I don't think this game will be a curtain raiser of any sort, because this game has taken on a new life of its own. The Eagles are up and about. Peel Thunder are high on confidence. Should be a ripper. Yeah,
looking forward to that. Optus Stadium. As I said, it's a while since the Eagles have won back-to-back games in the WAFL, while since they've won a game in the WAFL. So it was really good to see the vibe at the club and the excitement on the same day as their AFL team won, and Trey Rusco kicked 3 goals, and he was important for them. Peel Thunder, I think, probably more advanced, and I think will have a stronger side on the day to combat what the Eagles throw at them. But you're right, it's terrific to see them pushing up. I think Peel Thunder probably win, though, at Optus Stadium as part of the entree to the RAC Derby.
Peel Thunder, yep, I'll say Peel Thunder as well by about a few goals. And then this one's going to be a ripper. It's live on 7, as well as the AFL app, Claremont-Subiaco and a Western Suburb showdown.
It is. That's where the WAFL Wonderland's heading to, and it's going to be. You talk about matches that can define a season. Well, for Claremont to go 0-4. You start to think, well, premiership becomes so difficult because you're unable at that stage, you think, to finish top 2. So making the finals becomes an issue. So they were pretty good, I've got to say, after about the 20-minute mark of the first quarter against South Fremantle. They should have won that game. They kicked 1 goal late. So, look, I think they can probably get the job done against a Subiaco side that dropped the opening game against Perth. But since then, they've played some good footy, knocking over Peel, then West Perth. They are a side, they're just reliable. You almost know what you're going to get with Beau Ward. When you mentioned Greg Clark, he's terrific. Obviously, they missed Zach Clark this year, but they get the midfield, I think, to trouble sides, and Sokol in attack.
And Mayo as well.
Mayo as well has been really good. Good point. I just think Subiaco are always going to be around the mark, but Claremont, this is almost their last hurrah. So I think they will be very tough to beat on Saturday, Claremont.
Could be some pressure on Ash Prescott. And you mentioned the Wonderland there. Obviously, the Commission have made a heavy effort to promote the Wonderland this year. I know you said you haven't been at all the games, but what have you made of the crowd numbers? It seems like WA fans are really getting around the WAFL this year.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we want. I mean, it's a great competition. We know that because we support it. We know the standard is good, and we know that for family and young kids to go and watch the footy, go and have a kick of the footy, go and listen to the coaches, all that, and make it more of a social event with DJs and some entertainment. I think we have to try because it's not easy. You've got the big game in town, which is the AFL. But if you can find, something that's affordable, you can get some decent food, a bit of music, social activity for a younger demographic, I think it's terrific. It's not easy work because you're having to try and compete against all sorts of entertainment. But so far the numbers have been good. And I think one thing that will always help WAFL with crowd numbers, and that's having an even competition and teams going. You go to a game of footy and you barrack for West Perth. You're not sure if West Perth's going to beat Claremont on any given day. I'm a Perth supporter going with hope. It's when your team is getting belted week in, week out, numbers drop off, and that's human nature. So an even competition, and I think the numbers across the board will go well. And I know that the WAFL Wonderland, a lot of work's got into that to make sure that they get that. Just a different demographic, guys your age coming in, Nathan, just having a couple of bevies and enjoying the footy, which it's not a bad way to spend your Saturday.
Absolutely, it doesn't get better than that. Well, Skate, we really appreciate your time here. Thanks so much for your contribution, and all the best for the weekend's footy. Are you calling the big derby on the weekend?
I am calling the Derby at Optus Stadium, so doing a bit of work with Channel 7, doing a preview as part of that, and doing some stuff with 6PR. So really looking forward to it, but I'll tell you what, I'll be keeping an eye on the 2 games. There's one as a curtain raiser of sorts to the Derby. Yeah, looking forward to the WAFL. And of course, hopefully the Derby goes better than the microphone I've just got hold of. But it's a pleasure to be here. And once again, thanks to you boys for the support you give the WAFL. It's magnificent. You're passionate about it. You mentioned 1977, Ethan. You weren't even considered
a long time before I was here.
I was a kid back then. But the fact you guys are putting back into the WAFL on behalf of people that work at the Commission and the WAFL fraternity, big thank you, because the profile you're giving it is exceptional. So thank you, boys.
Really appreciate it, Skeet. Kind words as always. Thanks, Skeet. And thanks to you. Thanks to Ethan as well. Great contributions by you as always. And thanks to you, our listeners and viewers. We look forward to your company on Tuesday to review a shortened round 4. Of course, only 2 games. And then we get back into the big action, the Anzac Day weekend coming up in the week ahead. Thanks for your time. We'll see you next time.